I never thought I'd see Jake Morrison again. 25 years had passed since high school, since those Friday nights under the stadium lights when I was the offensive lineman, and he was the star quarterback everyone loved. I was just the big guy who kept him from getting sacked. He probably didn't even remember my name. But then I saw him walk through the doors of Riverside Nursing Home on a Tuesday morning, wearing scrubs with little blue flowers on them, and my entire world tilted sideways. I'd been working at Riverside for 3 years by then. After my dad's stroke, I'd needed to find work close to home, something with decent benefits and a steady paycheck. Nursing assistant wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work and I was good at it. I liked the residents, liked making them comfortable, liked the simple routine of it all. It was safe, predictable. Nothing like high school, where every day felt like walking through a minefield of expectations I could never quite meet. The thing about being 6'3" and 250 pounds is that people make assumptions. They assumed I was tough, that nothing bothered me, that I didn't feel things the way other people did. On the football field, I used that. I was the wall, the immovable object, the guy who threw his body in front of defensive linemen twice my size to protect Jake Morrison's perfect throwing arm. Off the field, though, I was just Marcus Chen, the quiet kid who ate lunch alone and went straight home after practice, who never went to parties and definitely never talked about the way my heart would race whenever Jake clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Good job, big guy." So when Jake walked into the break room that Tuesday morning and our eyes met across the coffee maker, I felt 17 again, terrified and hopeful and absolutely certain he wouldn't remember me. But he did. Marcus? His voice was deeper than I remembered, rougher around the edges, but his smile was exactly the same. Marcus Chen? Oh my God, I heard you worked here, but I didn't believe it. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled me into a hug that smelled like coffee and some kind of cedar cologne. And I stood there frozen, my arms awkwardly hovering at my sides because I didn't know what to do with them, didn't know if I was allowed to hug him back. He pulled away, still grinning, his hands on my shoulders. "Look at you, man. You look good." "How long has it been?" 25 years, I managed to say. My voice came out rougher than I intended. "Since graduation. God, 25 years. His smile faltered just a little, something complicated passing across his face. "I heard you stayed in town. I just moved back a few months ago. Going through a divorce, needed a fresh start, you know how it is." I didn't know how it was, actually. I'd never been married, never even come close. But I nodded anyway, because that's what you do when someone tells you something like that. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't be." He shrugged, letting his hands drop from my shoulders, and I immediately missed the weight of them. Best thing that could have happened, honestly. Should have done it years ago. But hey, looks like we're going to be working together. That's pretty cool, right? "Yeah," I said, even though cool didn't begin to cover the complicated knot of emotions tangling in my chest. "That's great." Over the next few weeks, I learned things about Jake Morrison that 17-year-old me never could have imagined. I learned that he took his coffee black with 2 sugars, that he was terrible at remembering to eat lunch, that he had a daughter named Emma who was studying marine biology at UC San Diego. I learned that his divorce had been messy, that his ex-wife had left him for someone from her yoga class, that he'd spent the last 2 years feeling like a failure, even though he was one of the most competent nurses I'd ever worked with. I learned that he was kind in ways that had nothing to do with being popular or well-liked. He remembered every resident's name, their families, their favourite foods, the stories they told over and over. He sat with Mrs. Patterson for an hour every evening, holding her hand while she cried about her late husband. He made Mr. Rodriguez laugh with terrible jokes in broken Spanish. He treated everyone with this gentle dignity that made my chest ache, and I learned that he remembered me. Not just my name, but me. The real me, or at least more of me than I'd thought anyone had noticed back then. We were restocking supplies in the medication room one evening when he brought it up. "You know what I remember most about you from high school?" he said, his voice casual, like he was commenting on the weather. I looked up from the box of gloves I was organising. "What? How safe you made me feel." He wasn't looking at me, was focused on counting out packages of bandages, but there was something deliberate about the way he said it. "On the field, I mean. I knew that as long as you were there, nothing bad would happen to me. You always had my back." "That was my job," I said quietly. "No, it was more than that." He turned to face me then, leaning against the counter, his arms crossed over his chest. "You cared." I could tell. Some of the other guys, they were just going through the motions, you know? But you were invested. You made me feel like I mattered. I didn't know what to say to that. The medication room suddenly felt very small, the air thick with things I couldn't name. You did matter, I finally said. You were the quarterback. The whole team depended on you. He studied me for a long moment, something searching in his gaze. Is that really why? He asked softly. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. I turned back to the gloves, my hand shaking slightly as I stacked them on the shelf. What other reason would there be? He didn't answer. When I finally worked up the courage to look at him again, he was back to counting bandages, but there was a small, sad smile on his face that I didn't understand. Things shifted after that conversation. Not dramatically, not in any way I could point to and say there. That's when everything changed. But there was a new awareness between us, a careful tenderness in the way we moved around each other. Jake started seeking me out during breaks, sitting next to me in the break room, asking about my day, telling me about his. He started texting me outside of work, just little things at first. Hey, did you see that Mrs. Patterson's daughter is visiting tomorrow? We should make sure to get her favourite cookies. Then longer messages, random thoughts, funny stories about Emma. A photo of a sunset he'd seen on his drive home with the caption, "Thought of you when I saw this. Don't know why." I didn't know why either, but I saved that photo, looked at it more times than I wanted to admit. It was Mr. Davis who forced everything into the open. Mr. Davis was 93, a retired Marine with advanced dementia who had good days and bad days. On his good days he was sharp and funny, telling stories about his time in Korea, flirting shamelessly with the female staff. On his bad days he didn't know where he was, got agitated and confused, sometimes aggressive. It was a bad day. I was helping him get ready for bed when he suddenly grabbed my wrist, his grip surprisingly strong for a man his age. "Where is she?" he demanded, his eyes wild. "Where's my wife? What have you done with her?" "Mr. Davis, it's okay," I said, keeping my voice calm and steady the way we'd been trained. "Your wife isn't here right now, but you're safe. I'm Marcus, remember? I'm here to help you." But he wasn't hearing me. His grip tightened, his other hand coming up to shove at my chest. "You're lying! You're all liars!" He was shouting now, his face red, and I could hear other residents getting upset, could hear the alarm in their voices. I didn't see Jake come in. I was too focused on trying to calm Mr. Davis down without restraining him, without making things worse. But suddenly Jake was there, his hand on Mr. Davis's shoulder, his voice low and soothing. "Hey, Sergeant Davis, it's Jake. Remember me? We talked about Chosen Reservoir yesterday. You were telling me about the cold." Something in Jake's voice got through. Mr. Davis's grip on my wrist loosened slightly, his eyes focusing on Jake's face. "The cold," he repeated. "That's right." Jake moved closer, positioning himself between me and Mr. Davis in a way that was protective without being obvious. "It was negative 35 degrees, you said. Coldest you'd ever been. But you kept fighting. You kept your men safe." "I kept them safe," Mr. Davis said. And suddenly he was crying. These huge, shaking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside him. I tried to keep them safe. Jake pulled him into a hug, this frail, confused old man who'd been trying to hurt me just seconds before, and held him while he cried. "You did keep them safe," Jake murmured. "You were a good Marine. You did your duty. And right now, your duty is to rest. Can you do that for me, Sergeant?" It took another 20 minutes to get Mr. Davis settled, but Jake stayed the whole time, talking to him in that same gentle voice, helping him into bed, making sure he was comfortable. I stood back and watched, my wrist still aching from where Mr. Davis had grabbed me, and felt something crack open inside my chest. After Mr. Davis was finally asleep, Jake led me out into the hallway. His hand was on my elbow, warm and steady, and he didn't let go even after we'd stopped walking. "Let me see," he said, reaching for my wrist. "It's fine," I started to say, but he was already examining it, his fingers gentle as they probed the red marks Mr. Davis had left behind. "You're going to bruise," he said quietly. "You should ice it." "I've had worse. That's not the point." He looked up at me, and there was something fierce in his eyes, something that made my breath catch. "You shouldn't have to have worse. You shouldn't have to get hurt at all. It's part of the job," I said. "You know that. I don't care." His grip on my wrist tightened just slightly, just enough for me to feel it. I watched him put his hands on you and I felt. He stopped, shook his head. "I wanted to protect you, the way you used to protect me." "Jake," I said, but I didn't know how to finish that sentence. Didn't know what I was trying to say. He was still holding my wrist. We were standing in the middle of the hallway, fluorescent lights humming overhead, the smell of institutional dinner lingering in the air, and Jake Morrison was looking at me like I was something precious, something worth protecting. "I should have told you back then," he said, "in high school. I should have told you that it wasn't just about football, that you weren't just my lineman, that I noticed you, Marcus. I noticed everything about you." My heart was going to beat right out of my chest. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I was a coward. I'm saying that I knew, even back then, that what I felt for you wasn't what I was supposed to feel. I'm saying that I spent 25 years trying to be someone I wasn't, and I'm tired, Marcus. I'm so tired of pretending." The world had narrowed to just the two of us, to the sound of our breathing and the warmth of his hand on my wrist. "I never stopped," I heard myself say. "Protecting you, I mean." In my head, I never stopped. "Oh, Marcus." He said my name like it meant something, like it was important. Would it be okay if I... He didn't finish the question, but I understood it anyway. I nodded just once, and then he was kissing me. Right there in the hallway of Riverside Nursing Home, with the fluorescent lights buzzing and someone's television playing too loud in the distance, Jake Morrison was kissing me like he'd been waiting 25 years to do it. Maybe he had. Maybe we both had. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine, both of us breathing hard. "I want to do this right," he said. "I want to take you on a date. A real date. I want to hold your hand and buy you dinner and not hide who I am anymore. Who we are. Would that be something you'd want?" I'd been wanting that since I was 17 years old. "Yeah," I said, my voice rough with emotion. "Yeah, Jake, that's something I'd want." He smiled, and it was like the sun coming out. "Good," he said, "that's really good. We still work together at Riverside. We're careful, professional, appropriate. But sometimes, when no one's looking, Jake will brush his hand against mine as we pass in the hallway. Sometimes he'll catch my eye across the dining room and smile, and I'll smile back, and it feels like a secret we're sharing. A good secret this time. On Friday nights, we order takeout and watch old football games at his apartment. He sits close enough that our shoulders touch, and sometimes he'll lean his head against my arm and say, "Remember this play? Remember how you absolutely destroyed that defensive end?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I remember." Even though what I really remember is the way he looked at me afterward, like I'd done something miraculous. Mrs. Patterson asked me last week if Jake was my special friend. She said it with a knowing smile, the kind that told me she understood exactly what she was asking. I looked over at Jake, who was helping Mr. Rodriguez with his lunch, laughing at something the old man had said, and I thought about all the years I'd spent hiding, pretending, protecting everyone except myself. "Yeah," I told her. "Yeah, he's my special friend." She patted my hand with her papery fingers. "Good," she said. "Everyone needs someone to protect them, even the protectors. She's right. I spent so long being the wall, the shield, the immovable object. I thought that was all I could be. But Jake sees me differently. He sees the scared kid who ate lunch alone, the one who never went to parties, the one who loved him from a distance for years. And he doesn't need me to be a wall anymore. He just needs me to be Marcus. That's enough. I'm enough. Last night we were lying in his bed, the window open to let in the cool evening air. His head was on my chest, his arm draped across my stomach, and I was running my fingers through his hair, thinking about how strange and wonderful life can be, how the boy I protected in high school is protecting me now, in all the ways that matter. "Thank you," he murmured, half asleep. "For what?" "For waiting. For still being here. For giving me a second chance." I kissed the top of his head, breathing in the scent of his shampoo. "You don't have to thank me for that." "Yes, I do." He tilted his head to look up at me, his eyes soft in the dim light. "I wasted so much time, Marcus. So many years. But I'm not going to waste any more. I love you. I should have said it 25 years ago, but I'm saying it now. I love you." I'd imagined hearing those words from him 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. But nothing I'd imagined came close to the reality of it, to the way they settled into my chest and made a home there. "I love you too," I said. "I always have." He smiled and kissed me, slow and sweet and full of promise. Outside I could hear the city settling in for the night, cars passing, someone's dog barking, the distant sound of sirens. Inside there was just us. Just this. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't protecting anyone. I was just loving someone and letting them love me back. It turns out that's the bravest thing I've ever done. Total char count, 16,847.